But if you just said, I just want to fight bad guys until I retire, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, which is a shame that people don't tell you. Like, hey, if you get into logistics, finance, acquisitions, or test and development of weapons, you have a much better chance. Like, the only people I know that really got the golden ticket were the people that did those like things that we as military thought were like, nerd. So I'm impatient. I'm kind of chomping at the bit and just feeling like a failure a little bit, that with inflation and all that, my mortgage is high. And so financially, the family's not where they thought they would be. And just the tension that's this whole 2 years has caused between me and my wife has been huge. Like, it's pushed us harder than the military ever did. We've really had some moments there because we've been married 23 years. I've been a people pleaser and a go-getter and, whatever, and to be everything for everybody. And the weight of it's been too much. And I've just basically threw that backpack off.
This is Alone and Unafraid. I'm thrilled to introduce not just one, but two incredible dudes in the studio today who bring a wealth of experience and insight to our conversation. First, let me introduce my co-host for today's episode, Tyler Huckett. Tyler is not only an advocate for veterans issues, but also an accomplished entrepreneur and adventure sports enthusiast. He is the founder and chief roasting officer of Polestar Coffee. He is an elite athlete who leads his adventure racing team, Flow State Endurance. He co-hosts the Flow State Endurance podcast, sharing insights and experiences from the adventure race world. We served together in the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment, Airborne. Tyler is a master gunner, and some even call him the M134 Whisperer, although that's disputed on at least 5 continents. And let's not forget his rugged good looks and his perfect hair, which make him stand out both on and off the field. Welcome, Tyler.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now on to our main guest, Chris Jason. Chris is a 25-year Navy veteran who served as a Naval Flight Officer, primarily in the EA-6B Prowler community before transitioning to EA-18G Growlers later in his career. For those who need a quick reference, think of him more as Goose from Top Gun rather than Maverick. Chris participated in several key operations, including Operation Southern Watch, the 2003 invasion of Iraq, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation Inherent Resolve. After commanding Naval Air Station Corpus Christi, Chris decided to retire to provide stability for his teenage sons and to lay down community roots in Florida. Since leaving the Navy, Chris has been on a journey of personal and professional discovery. He initially worked on the DoD human spaceflight support for NASA, and currently he supports the Department of State Air Wing. Outside of work, Chris is a Formula One racing fan. He stays in shape and likes to spend time with his family. Please join me in welcoming Chris, call sign TJ, to the pod. We're honored to have you here, Chris.
Thanks for inviting me, Thad.
You did 25 years in the 24 or 25 years. 25 years in the Navy, EA-6B Naval Flight Officer, and then eventually into EA-18Gs, Growlers.
Yes. Yep.
And then finished up your last duty assignment was Corpus Christi as the commanding officer, or as they say in the Navy, the skipper of,
of the
NAS
base. Yep.
Corpus Christi. So can you just give us a quick, I kind of summarized there, but I left out of something. Can you just give us a quick background on TJ?
Yep. For NFO as navigator or weapons officer, basically I always say Goose, not Maverick. I did do 25 years. It wasn't like a gimme that I did 25 years. That I agonized over each decision, but I really wanted to fly since I was a kid, and I loved it. But as you know, it's the reality. It's not the same as the dream. But I still enjoyed it a lot, and had kids late, so that kind of worked out. Did a squadron command tour and mostly carrier based. I did one. My best deployment was to Afghanistan though, on a land based squadron, supporting the ground forces directly. It was really gratifying. 2009. And after squadron command, I got kind of boned with the back-to-back sea duty as an air boss, which is the hardest job in the world, up in the tower of the ship on the Roosevelt. But at that point, it's like, well, I'm 19 years, I can't retire, and then by the time I get out of air boss, I'll be able to retire. But then I'll be a captain select and not have any more seat time coming. And so I kind of convinced myself to stay on a little longer and go to Hawaii. It was supposed to be a great tour, but it was a awful, toxic tour in a 4-star headquarters. It was miserable. My family was happy, but it was the worst time, I think, in my life. It was a terrible tour. I went in there as a deputy N5. The N5 had a stroke. He was a civilian SES, and so now I'm the N5, not qualified to be the deputy or the N5, but now I'm both. And then Admiral Aquilino showed up. You know, he's an intense guy, and Secretary Mattis put out the new strategy. So the whole place got shaken up, and so here I was holding the bag for my boss and all that. So, and
for the uninitiated, especially the Army guys, N is the same as S or G for Army.
Yeah, strategy and policy and plans and all that. Yep.
I had no idea what you're talking about.
International engagements and all that stuff. So, yeah, and that's in Corpus Christi was supposed to be my kind of. So Hawaii was my get well from having these 2 back-to-back sea tours, and it certainly was not a get well psychologically. And then I screened for base command and chose Corpus Christi and to be able to fly and be close to Cheryl's parents, and that was a great tour. I did 3 years there, but it was not stress-free because COVID hit. We had an active shooter. We had 2 hurricanes, the like historic winter storm. All that kind of stuff. So it's just like one thing after another, you know, and it just kind of chewed me up.
Yeah, I think when you always think this next thing over the horizon is going to be your, you know, get well. This is what I need, and I just don't think that's reality in anywhere you do anything. But to kind of go back, what did you pick? EA-6Bs, or how does the Navy do that? Were you just assigned?
No, I picked it.
Yeah.
So in flight school, we got primary, intermediate, and advanced. And at each gate, you compete with your classmates, and your grades will determine your choice. And they'll have a set number of slots for your class. So maybe there's 2 people have to go P3s, you know, and so everyone puts in their pick, and maybe someone chose it, and if people don't pick it, then people get forced. So there's initial after primary, they'll select some people for P3s or now P8s, but that's like a heavy, and I didn't want any part of that. But people wanted it, so they chose it, and good. It's like, all right, pass that. Then after intermediate, there's what we call the E2 Hawkeye draft, where no one in my class wanted it. But I remember going to the party after the selection, and the girl that got forced to E2s was crying and everything, because you're in the back of a tube as a Naval Flight Officer, and it's a cool mission, but it's not what people want. And then you go to jets, and your grades determine your options. But I wanted to fly intruders, you know, the A6s. They didn't have those anymore, so I thought EA6s is still a cool NFO-driven community. And it was that or Tomcats, but I went with Prowlers.
What's the mission set with those aircraft?
It's all at the time it was air defense suppression for other aircraft, like surface air missiles and jamming radars and shooting them. And then it grew in the war on terror. It grew into ground forces.
So it's an armed aircraft.
It's armed. It's not really the best weapon. You know, we shoot a kinetic weapon, but the energy pods, you know, the jammer pods that put out all that wattage, that's your real weapon.
Okay.
But yes, I've taken a couple of shots in Iraq at sites. Whether you hit it or not is actually not the critical thing. Is if you shoot at it and you force them to shut down, you win, you know,
right.
You accomplished what you needed. So anyway, the way the technology was at the time has gotten better.
Yeah, I remember in Iraq, we would always have EA-6Bs jamming for us. And it was so effective that we'd be 1 minute out and you'd hear the EA-6B guy come on and go music on, and that was it. We didn't talk to anybody. It was comms blacked out until there's so many missions that we would do. I can remember them, people, you know, me or somebody else yelling music off, but they can't hear us. So, but it was exceptionally effective. And a lot of that, jam, ICOM, radio, cell, all kinds. It's probably classified, but there's all kinds of
we have radar targets
there.
and then we have communications targets.
Yeah.
And usually the two missions are separate. But I've done them both. And usually ground forces are the beneficiary of one mission set or aircraft for the other mission set. So we were built to be a classic air defense suppression, and this other mission just grew after 9/11, where people thought like, hey, we just really customized the aircraft to go do this other thing, and some of it was not effective in my opinion. Some of the IED stuff I think was marginally effective at best, but then in 2008 and 9 in Afghanistan, our XO was really big on like, no, we really ought to be focusing on supporting these guys this way. And once we shifted that gear, it was amazing. And I worked with the unit. I was the liaison to the Army or Air Force, like the JTACs or the soft task forces, whatever they wanted to plan. We supported it, and it was the feedback I got from those Army units after the mission was awesome, especially if they had contact and we showed up. The things that would happen because we did our thing were really, like they would say, like, you guys saved lives today. Felt great.
Yeah, I could tell a difference working with prowlers over like the EC-130 Compass Call. They were good, but the prowler crews were more proficient. It's just like in close air support, I could tell a difference. I knew by call sign, but I could definitely tell a difference between an A-10 pilot or an F-16 pilot or an F-15. There was just, when you would hear certain call signs, you're either like, yes, or like, fuck, so I think, at least in my experience with the prowler community, it was always a positive experience.
And we would always stay. Like if you said, I need you to stay for 12 hours, if you helped us find fuel, we would stay. Whereas I know the Air Force is super strict about, even with troops in contact, they would leave, which we could not understand it. And of course, it wasn't their decision. It was a 3-star level decision, which for me, it was a 03 level decision to stay.
I think that's the fundamental difference between the Army and the Marine Corps and the Air Force, and Army, Navy, and Marine Corps versus Air Force is, and I say this kind of in jest, but with like a 75%, I'm serious, is an 05 in the Air Force is equivalent to an 03 in the Navy and the Army and the Marine Corps. And it's just that
in the authorities,
the authority is pushed way down in the other services, where I just didn't see that in the Air Force. And I exclude AFSOC from that,
right,
to a point, like, to a point, but
fair.
But anyway, so we got your background a little bit, but really what we want to talk about today is kind of transitioning out of the military and just your experiences with what that was like, because you've only been out 2 years now, right?
Yep.
So I'm 5 years removed. Tyler,
I got out in 2018 the first time.
Yeah, so
and the guard time doesn't really count. So 2018.
So you're 6 years removed. I'm 5 and you're 2. So we're a little bit ahead of you maybe in our journey.
Only by time.
Oh, yeah.
You can tell by the anger levels at work.
Yeah, we're all still very angry. Yeah.
You're way more chill, Tyler, when stuff goes down. And then and then when I had my blow up, it my 0 to 60 was pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
I came to realize quick that if nobody's dying, then that's not that I don't care. I'm very almost checked out. Like, okay, well, if nobody's dying and I don't have to go, I'm not going to go.
Yeah, I think with me, I generally have an issue with emotional regulation. Like, I'm not that great at it. And in the military, where there's lives on the line, you not regulating your emotions kind of fits, because the stakes are higher.
It's appropriate.
I haven't figured that part out yet here.
See, and I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I regulate them so much I forget to use them when it's appropriate. And then when it's
So you're
time
just
to,
beating them down. That's good.
yeah, you just keep them out of
Yeah.
the way.
Yeah.
And then when it's time to be emotional about something, I don't know how to not act like a robot.
But that's probably like a coping thing too.
That's what my therapist says.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't feel good emotions. I just get the negative
I just feel the
ones.
bad ones.
Yeah.
Well, that's you fuel on caffeine and hate.
It's true.
So
Well, we've had the same run-ins with certain toxic leadership techniques here, and I think part of your brain is thinking like, I've been through toxic leadership where I couldn't do anything about it, and now I'm in the civilian world and everything should be great. And when you encounter it, or not just toxic leadership traits, but you also just like inefficiency, you know, stupid meetings that are a waste of time, and you just like call it out, but then no one does anything, and so there's a lot of frustration, right? You're just like, why this many years into my life I'm still facing all
it's
that?
like you went back in time and are starting over instead of. I always had this picture of being a civilian that I'd go to work at this corporation that would be ultra efficient and lean and, you know, making money and doing, you know, everything right. And I think that's just probably not reality. And I think when you get out, that trying to get into this world is pretty difficult. I mean, we heard from you how painful it was transitioning out of the Army, trying to find a job or trying to find where you fit in. And you've kind of had some of the same
That was awful. Yeah.
experiences, right?
Yeah. I started my job search like a year from getting out, you know, and I was busy, but I gave a lot of effort. I put at least an hour a day into learning. I did some American Corporate Partners, was awesome. I actually had to recommend them. They helped me with resumes and LinkedIn, like the blocking and tackling piece. But, you know, I started talking to people all the time, and they, you know, they're like, what do you want to do? I don't know. You know, my big thing is, why is every veteran I asked for help, and they were very willing to help, but they all started with that question, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't know what I want to do.
You don't even know what's out there.
I want to figure out what I can do. I was looking for someone to say, okay, based on what you've done in the Navy, I think you'd be good at this. And I couldn't get that from anybody. So I started looking at all I kind of thought, hey, I want to take a step away from defense, you know, and militarism and all that. You know, I've done that for, you know, I want to shift gears a bit and do something different. And I try to look at that, and a few things were promising, but nothing really added up. And so, you know, eventually kind of went hat in hand back to defense, big defense, and was super disappointed because they're so casual, like almost cruel in their casualness towards military, because you're a dime a dozen. They've got, you know, and they were just very slow, 2 weeks, 3 weeks between interviews. And, you know, that's once my terminal leaves up, I'm burning savings, you know. I'm sitting there in a, you know, we chose location based on aerospace. It met all our family's needs and had tons of in defense and aerospace here in east coast of Florida. But I was in a rental place, all my stuff in a storage unit in Texas, and with a lease expiring on our furnished rental, and my kids going like, when are you going to get a job? And I'm at it and doing nothing but, and just feeling worse and worse about myself, you know, and like, you know, went to Northrop Grumman, had promising interviews. Everything was looking great, but everything was 2 weeks. Okay, we'll let you know next round of interviews when this person returns from travel 2 weeks from now. Like, what am I going to do for those 2 weeks? So I think a buddy of mine set me up with an opportunity I ended up taking as my first job. The pay was real low, but it was an awesome job doing NASA support. And I was happy there, but I realized I need to find something else. And then I found this, you know, but in neither case, I'm in a good place. The money's okay. Here it's actually significantly better than the last job, and I like the mission. I love the people. Like, everything's good, but I'm not achieving what I thought I would be. I'm not at my, you know, sort of unlocking my potential. Right? I'm too experienced to have too much to offer to be doing what I'm doing. So I'm impatient. I'm kind of chomping at the bit and just feeling like a failure a little bit, you know, that, with inflation and all that, my mortgage is high. And so financially, the family's not where they thought they would be. And just the tension that's this whole 2 years has caused between me and my wife has been huge. Like, it's pushed us harder than the military ever did. You know, we've really had some moments there because we've been married 23 years.
And I assume you were probably on the road most of that time, right?
A lot of that time, yeah.
Or-
So now you're home all the time. And
Yeah.
things aren't going well.
And really feeling insecure about, because I do know people that got that golden ticket out of the military with like, well, I worked this program in acquisitions and I got hired immediately by the contractor for that program and I'm making $250,000, and that's not me. And I'm getting smoke checked by those guys.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
it's,
You're smoke checking yourself, right? Like
yeah.
like you're comparing.
And it's not just me
Yeah,
though, because
yeah.
my spouse sees what other couples
Right,
do,
right.
and Facebook and all that, right? And so, you just can't hide that our house is smaller, that we're not going to Europe, that we don't have a new car, that we didn't buy jet skis, and all while all these other folks are, and not everyone's doing that. I mean, I have a friend here, another retired 06, and he's working for Northrop Grumman. He's making a little bit more than me, but it's not night and day. So the people that are just crushing it are probably the exception.
Yeah. And I think it's really important to note, especially on social media, that I actually deal with this a lot. I think we were talking about this, is when you see other people's success, on one hand, I'm really happy for them,
Right.
but it just makes you feel like shit. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like shit. And that's what I mean is like when I said, we are our own worst critics on this is where I should be. This is what I should be doing. I should be doing X, Y, and Z. And so I totally understand where you're coming from, because I do it the same. I look on LinkedIn and I see somebody that we know and I'm like, man, I can't even figure out what I'm eating for dinner tonight. And this guy is, but we're looking at that's the highlight reel of their life,
right.
and not true reality. And I think social media is kind of a blessing and a curse. And I think you, Tyler, went through a little bit of this when you were talking about sleeping in the bed of your truck.
Yeah.
And, there's parallels that everybody can get through, and you can kind of I can kind of hear the frustration in your voice of what you're going through. What's it been like with that job search? You were talking about 2 weeks. Does it seem a little weird to everybody? Maybe it's just me, that multiple rounds of interviews seem a little, it might be commonplace, but maybe it seems a little much. In some jobs, I would see how you're working in a higher capacity. You probably want to have a couple, but I've heard some horror stories from you about how long these things have taken. I mean, it seems, what's been in your experience with how long those interviews have happened, and how many have you done that lead to nowhere?
Well, the Northrop Grumman one, I just had to cut off. It was leading somewhere. I think I was a good candidate, but I couldn't take the chance. I had another offer, and so I took it. I should have. Looking back, I should have been more patient. But you have to pay bills, right? So I went for a job, basically a $40,000 pay cut to take the job that was in hand versus the one that was putting me off to other rounds. I think I was just shocked by how indecisive people are. To me, it's pretty straightforward. I've done interviews for like enlisted doing commissioning programs, and you can tell. You know what you're looking for. You've got all the objective data in front of you that you review before the interview, and then they present themselves and you talk to them, and now you've filled in the blanks. And now you know their personality, their ability to communicate. There's really not much else to go. So it's I did multiple interviews with L3 Harris, which is how I ended up getting turned on to this area. Was they reached out to me? They said, you're everything we're looking for this job. So I said, great, that sounds awesome. And I sort of made the rookie mistake of thinking that was a done deal. Did several interviews, and it ended up my chances were killed by another EA-6B guy on the team who had been to test pilot school and was off the operational track from 03 on, did acquisitions exclusively, program stuff. And he said, I don't have acquisitions experience, which isn't what the manager who reached out to me said she was looking for. So I was kind of confused. Like, I don't get it. And you clearly have a guy with acquisitions experience on the team. That's not what I brought. You knew that. So that was sort of my first experience with the, they're going to talk to you like you're the belle of the ball, but you may be candidate number 4, and you just have to acknowledge that. Like, they're not going to let you know that you're a tertiary candidate because they don't want you to drop off.
And I think that's where the problem lies in that for us, right? Because usually you're pretty upfront about where you stand. There's OMLs for everything, right?
Yep.
So even if, like, I can do a lot more with a no than I can with a maybe. And if they came out during these interview process, like, hey, we're talking to 5 people, like, you're number 4, you can do a lot with that. You know what I mean? And most people in our shoes will be a little bummed, but now I know where I stand, number 1, and number 2, I can start actioning that. Like, okay, well, if I'm number 4, then maybe I don't hang on for another 6 weeks of interviews. You know what I mean? Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, you have to blindly take a chance on that, right?
Yeah, and they expect you to sit on your hands and wait and color until it's your turn to get a phone call. And I think that's the most frustrating. That was a huge frustrating part for me.
Well, I'm dealing with it right now, so on the DL or whatever. But I've been talking to this company, and it was a perfect fit. And I was really excited, and just the mission, everything that they're doing, and I've got the experience they need. And I just did 3 interviews and a product demo. So that's 4 engagements that I've done with them. And the interview I thought went super well. I mean, I mapped out everything they asked me to map out, like basically how would you go about getting resources for this project. And I knew how to do it. I mean, because it's right up my alley. But every I mean, they're busy, I guess, but every communication is a 5 to 10 day wait for the, hey, I follow up a day after or whatever. Hey, that was great. Enjoyed it. Look forward to the next step kind of thing. And then I don't hear anything for a week or 2. Now, I didn't tell them I was in a rush or whatever, but you also like just common courtesy. So at this point, I'm assuming that I'm not a candidate, but I have no idea. And it's just frustrating. And these are veterans that I'm talking to that you kind of expect, like, hey, just kind of tell me, like, am I a good fit? Like, I am candid. I just tell them, like, you guys are my number 1 choice. I will, I want to come work for you. Like, I'm not BSing, but I've kind of learned that I'm probably being too eager and too transparent, that I have to hold cards closer. And I follow this lady, Anna Papalia. She does interview stuff. And she says it's like dating. And so if you come out over eager, then suddenly you're not attractive anymore. And so I'm trying to use, but it's unexpected to have to use that strategy with business, right? Like, am I your candidate or not? I can handle.
You expect it to be efficient.
Yeah.
And I just don't think it.
And open.
That. Yeah.
Yeah. Just
candid,
like all the stuff that's happened here recently, like, you are expected to say yes, Roger, move out, draw fire, but they can shit can you whenever they feel like it with no emotion. But you have to play the good person,
right?
And if you want to leave, you got to give 2 weeks. You don't get 2 weeks in return. You know what I mean? You don't get the same level of respect they demand from you in this place where, again, back in the military, there was always a give and take, and then you could be completely candid with somebody, and if you didn't like leadership, it changed in 2 years.
Yeah, and I think too in the military, it's a little bit easier, kind of far recognition. You can see on a guy's collar, okay, I know what that means. I know what he's responsible for. Or you can see on their chest, okay, this is what they've done. We wear our resumes on our chest and what their responsibilities. And when you get in the civilian world, trying to navigate that minefield, because you don't know who the players are. You don't know who. You're talking to a person on the phone doing an interview. What I made the mistake of talking to pilot recruiters is I would go way into technical questions or technical details. And then I would realize the person I'm talking to has no idea they're not a pilot. They don't know. So have you had any experience? Oh, it's a train.
Choo-choo.
We'll cut that out.
That's part of life, man.
Yeah. Have you had your experience with these companies and other veteran organizations or spaces? How have you dealt with that, or how are you coping with dealing with, I don't want to say rejection, but just this frustration? What's been the strategy? Because I'd like to know, because I'm still trying to figure it out myself.
And drinking is an effective answer.
Yeah.
I gave that up before I got out.
Smart.
I was having too many sleep problems, and I thought I'll take the variable out, and I just haven't reintroduced it. I guess the first thing I want to add to the point we were just talking about is that I think in the military we have a much better way of progressing people. Like we have a proven way. So when you see someone, you know, in my case is a 04 squadron, you know, screen department head, then he's pretty qualified to be there. Now there's a gamut of like, this guy's a douche or this guy's awesome, but they're at least qualified. They've got the experience. Whereas out here in industry, you've got a lot more people in jobs they're not really able to do.
Yeah, nepotism is alive and well,
Yeah.
or cronyism is a thing.
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
So the number of people I've encountered here who are really at a level that is beyond their capability or experience is much higher. So that's one thing that you're going to deal with a lot more. The veteran. I think you're asking specifically about the veteran space, you know, and how I'm interacting with that. I've just had to realize like it's such it's so varied, because I think my number is like 50%, like half of veteran stuff on LinkedIn is bullshit. You know, you can't assume like it's a safe place, I guess. Like there's been companies that are focused on helping veterans, like Commit, that are just legit. But then others that I checked out, and you know, I was like, hey, this sounds interesting. You know, it's a company that helps Naval or Academy graduates, which I tentatively approach because I'm not really that big into being an Academy graduate. Like I would not recommend my kids do the same kind of thing. So I'm not like all over it. But I checked it out, and then I ended up on unexpectedly was a group sales pitch for an $8,000 service, and that really was just like turned me off. Because I think veterans should be helping other veterans for free, and there's plenty of that are doing it. And I don't think they were offering enough value for what they're doing. I'm sure that if you sign up, you'll get something out of it, but it just kind of turned me off. And there's other companies that were trying to steer me towards franchising, and I thought it was in a genuinely like, hey, this is a really good thing that veterans do succeed at franchise ownership. But as soon as I was like, no, I don't really want to do that, they stopped mentoring me, you know, and they had suggested that they were there for me no matter what, but they've showed no follow-up at all. So like there's a lot of stuff that just looks right, but it's fake, you know, or it's just, you know, the people are like, you know. So, and I asked, my brother-in-law's an Army retired colonel, he retired at the same time I did roughly. And I said, hey, do you know this guy? Because they're classmates that run this service academy thing. And he's like, oh yeah, we stay away from him, you know? So like in the inside circle of his classmates, they realize that they don't like what he's doing as a business. But when you see his LinkedIn, it's like, oh, this guy's great, you know? And, you know, so there's a lot of phony stuff, and there's a lot of, I don't know. It's hard to tell what's genuine out there, you know?
Yeah. I always see things on LinkedIn like transition hack for the day and transition hacker. Like there's no hack. You have to gut it out and just go through it. You know, I always tell guys, you spent 20 something years, 10 years, you know, 15 years learning to be a member of the military, or you went to basic training, and it took you, you know, 3 months just to learn how to be, or 4 years in the Naval Academy. You can't unlearn that in, you know, 2 months. You can't hack your way out of it. There's no shortcuts to learning how to be a civilian. It just, there is none, and nobody is going to be your advocate except for you. Yeah. I'm sure there are some people out there that want to help you, but to your point, when you said, I had the same thing. I just wanted somebody I felt like maybe if they would just discover me and see my potential, they could say, hey, you would be a really good fit to work in this ball bearing factory as the whatever guy doing whatever. Because maybe I'm used to the military's mentality is promote on potential. Hey, this guy can make it to here. So maybe I've never worked in the ball bearing industry, and they go, hey, there's some basic leadership qualities, A plus B equals C. This will be good for you. And it just doesn't,
it doesn't
I have
happen.
not found that. So
not only that, you read job descriptions, and they are very rarely a good depiction of what the job actually is. So it's hard to apply yourself to something where you might look at it and be like, oh, I don't have any of those skills, when really most people don't. And they're just looking. They're looking for.
They're looking for a unicorn. Doesn't have those skills.
Right. They're looking for a unicorn, so I talked myself out of applying to a lot of things. I'm like, oh, I just don't have that skill. Just being like, the honest, objective, hey, they're looking for a guy who can do this. Like, well, I'm not that guy. Next. And then you realize like, oh, well, everybody out here is bullshitting their way through a job they're unqualified to be in by and large anyway. So throw your hat in the ring and then.
Yeah, I started doing that too. I applied for an MRO job in Miami, right? It's like, if I have to, I'll go down. That's when we were doing layoffs, right? I got to put everything I can. And they called me up and they said, have you done like private jet maintenance? I was like, nope, I have no experience with that. But a Navy jet squadron being a maintenance officer, I think is comparable. And they said, I don't think you have quite the direct experience we want. I said, hey, thanks, have a good day. And then 2 weeks later, like they you're their best candidate. So, right. And there was a number on the table, and it just wasn't enough for me to commute to Miami. But yeah, I started doing it, just to get a phone call. I just wanted someone to call, and usually they'd call and say, yeah, you're not what we're looking for, but you have a good resume and good luck.
Right.
I don't know if in the end of the day though, what I kind of learned was that the military guys that like one of my brother-in-laws, like he was a combat engineer and then he got into cyber. And in our in aviation, you can go into aviation engineering duty and like become essentially like a flight engineer, scientist, or acquisitions. But if you just said, I just want to fight bad guys until I retire, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, which is a shame that people don't tell you. Like, hey, if you get into logistics, finance, acquisitions, or test and development of weapons, you have a much better chance. Like, the only people I know that really got the golden ticket were the people that did those like things that we as military thought were like, nerd, you're off doing this thing that's not very glamorous, and they are taking over the defense world.
Well, I think there's a separation of people who were there. I just joined to go do the job, right? I didn't have any grand dreams of becoming anything more than I already was, which was not much. So like there's the people who join the military to do the job, and there's the people who join the military for what the military is going to give them. And the people who go through the military taking all the schools they can get, all the badges, all the different jobs, they tend to do a lot better. And that's just the unfortunate truth. And the people who are there to like, hey, support the mission, do the mission, there's not a lot for you after that.
Yeah, I just had this conversation with somebody, and I was talking to a guy I went to flight school with, and he's doing great things and working at very high levels within the Army, and he was asking me about my transition experience and the circles that he's running in and the circles that I ran in, because I was, and I don't know what do they call it in the Navy? In the Army, we call it a dirty boots assignment or muddy boots or something like that, like where you're what we would call a line. You're in a line company. You're the war fighter doing. Is that like the same as multiple sea tours or?
No, I don't think
do they have a
necessarily
term for that?
Equivalent.
Yeah, in the Army, it's very normal on the enlisted side and the officer side that you're going to flow from an operational assignment and then into kind of a training or
yeah, we have that.
Like you take a
so
break.
Sea duty would be our operational tour.
And a lot of guys, the higher you go in your career, they'll be operational for 6-10 years, and then they go away to support billets and never come back. And we're all just like what you're saying, like nerd, but the reality is I spent my entire career at the battalion level, which is like equivalent to like a squadron. And I was doing the mission until 5 months before I got out. And at the time, I even remember in my retirement speech, I crossed the finish line where I wanted to be as, an operational soldier. Looking back on it, I probably would have been better served working at those higher levels, in like acquisitions and programs. But then the flip side of that is you also got to live with yourself.
Yeah. Like to what end? Like, do you want to really be working in acquisitions right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
not really.
No, I have a friend that finished his Navy career after squadron command that he got the acquisitions billet that I had wanted and didn't get because I didn't have test pilot school. But he ended up getting it. So he's managing Super Hornet, program stuff. He just retired. He hated it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't have any regret about the staying operational, but there is a price you pay.
Yeah.
Or I guess the problem isn't that. Actually, I think the problem is more like the veterans who are doing the hiring should know better than to discriminate and say, look, they don't care that you commanded a squadron. Like the skills and the talent, the soft skills of doing that, I think outweigh the knowledge that I didn't get by not working in acquisitions or engineering. I feel like you can drop me anywhere and I'll solve a problem. Like, put me in any challenge, but they're just look at a very hard checklist, right? And you didn't work at a PMA, which is our acquisitions offices, or it's like is it SRD, SDR? What's your Army programmatic place in Huntsville for helicopters?
That would be like PM aviation.
Yeah.
And then it gets broken down by utility, attack, and cargo.
Yeah. So I never worked in those, right? But the thing is, I feel like I thought I'd proven myself by successfully commanding a squadron and a base and getting them all the awards and the unit awards and all that. But at the end of the day, though, when my resume goes to someone that they just want, their checklist says must have logs, acquisitions, or whatever, or engineering, and I don't have it. And I really just was disappointed that in defense, full of veterans, with other people in there who had command, that they just wouldn't look at that and say, okay, I know you don't have this, but I know I can give you anything, and you'll move a mountain. I never really encountered that.
Do you think that's because the people are kind of like gatekeeping? Those are the acquisitions guys that don't. Do you think that's a factor, or do you think it's just It's just black and white. Hey, it says this, I got to do that. I
think there's a lot of civilians, non-military experienced people in that pipeline too, in the hiring process and HR. And I think it's probably hard to make the case. But the thing is, you're going to have that applicant who's got a good resume that has what they want. And so when you go, well, this guy's got 10 out of 10. Well, this person has 9 out of 10, but was a commanding officer of a successful squadron. Yeah, but command of a squadron is not one of our lists. So he's 9 out of 10 and he's 10 out of 10. So they haven't figured out a way to really recognize the sort of like those soft skills, I guess.
Yeah.
Was what I would say.
Yeah.
The skills that got me, the 2 jobs I got after the military were both, I was selected not because of any of those great things, but because I had staff time, because I did the Pentagon Joint Staff and I did the 4-star headquarters at Pac Fleet. Those are not the experiences I value. Those aren't the experiences that made me good at doing stuff and solving problems and leading humans. That's like the least good things about me is that fact that I can put together a PowerPoint. But that's why Tom hired me, and that's why the last job hired me. And that's disappointing, because that's when people are looking at me who are, Tom was an Air Force guy, and the last guy that hired me was an Air Force guy. So I've been, hired by 2 companies where people chose to hire me because I had, done the staff work, not because my squadron was Squadron of the Year. My base was the Navy's Base of the Year, which I thought was a huge deal because that's a leadership triumph that I'm super proud of. But that didn't mean jack squat. It's just weird, And I'm not an arrogant guy, Like I never came out thinking like, well, I was a 06, so I deserve this, or but also like, hey, I have the ability to do more than I'm doing. And Jimmy came in. Was it Jimmy? I think somebody came in. No, it wasn't. It was what's his name? Morgan. He came in and he's like, hey, because he was a Navy guy. He's like, so does it bother you that you were a base commander and a captain and now you're doing this? And I was like, that's a fucked up question. I do enjoy the job and I would like to be swinging at a higher level, but right now this is where I'm at, and I'm going to try to impress everybody and compete for advancement when I can. But it's just a really effed up way to rub it in the fact that I'm kind of under performing at a level that is less than I'm capable of.
But how much of that is you selling yourself down the river? You know what I mean? And
I don't know.
Hanging your hat too much on what you do for work as opposed to like who you are as a human.
Well, the problem is that I don't have who I am as a human.
Right. I think that's all of our problems is separation, because you have to like tear apart the military from yourself. Like you kind of not have to forget it, but it's putting it somewhere than it used to be, somewhere else.
I can put the military where it needs to be, but I can't I still define myself by my work and what I earn the way I did as a military man, because I have nothing else,
Right.
And I'm trying to build it, but I don't know what it should be.
Yeah, I do. Actually, my wife, if she was listening to this right now, her face is about to smile because
She was right about something.
yeah, she's right about everything. But she was telling me, because I was like, I don't know who I am. Like, I don't know. Have you ever heard of work role centrality?
No.
That is when an enmeshment. This is like a.
Oh boy. Are you nodding in agreement, or are you also unfamiliar
I have
with
no
this?
idea what's
okay,
going
good.
on.
Yeah,
I don't want to feel
if
dumb.
you listen to episode 1, I explain it in like a long, drawn out process. But the bottom line is enmeshment is when who you are, when you think who you are is what you do as a vocation or the skills you bring, get intertwined with who you are, like at some kind of core level. And what's hard about the military is for so many years, your persona or what you bring to the table, or, you know, being a naval flight officer or pilot or, you know, whatever, it's hard to separate. I'm not talking about the vocation. I'm talking about the core principles of I should be here. And I deal with this every single day because I don't feel like I'm utilized at the potential that I could work at. I know you're not utilized at the potential you work at. And I also, same with you, I can see where you're at, and so you go back to who are you really? And the problem is, I don't think any of us knows, because for 20 plus years, you put this skin on that is, okay, I'm a naval officer, I'm an Army guy. And when you get out, all that kind of goes away. And what's left is like a husk of who you thought you were. And my wife's like, you need to figure out who you are and what your hobbies are. And I have no hobbies. And you could argue that maybe I'm trying to figure out a hobby in podcasting. Side note, this is a lot of work. It is not,
and you need to be good at it.
Yeah, you need to be good at, which I don't think I'm there yet. So my point is I think you're doing pretty good though with hobbies. Like you got your running, your ultra, your endurance stuff,
and it's come from just being tired of the normal shit, right? And then, you know, a friend just asked me to go do something, and instead of me always saying no, I'm a perpetual no guy. Like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to do anything. I'm very closed off from
functional freeze.
Me too.
Have you guys heard that term?
What is it?
Functional freeze.
No.
It's like when you're in a high cortisol anxiety state.
Yeah.
I started experiencing this in that Hawaii tour. When I got home, I was useless.
Yep.
Withdrawn from people. You know, you have no energy. Like your brain is like, I'm done. Shut up. Everybody be quiet. And you have no energy to do anything social or interactive or talk to people.
This is my life.
It's functional freeze.
My wife would always say at the dinner table, I need you to check in.
Yeah.
I need you to check in. We've got 3 kids right now. They're talking to
Our
you.
wives
And
must
I
be
was like,
talking because she's like, you're so checked out. She uses the opposite. She's focused on the negative.
Yeah.
You're so checked out all the
Hell
time. And it's like you feel bad as a dad. And I'm slowly coming out of that. But it's a long slog to undo that state of mind where you just like, you know, I mean, it's depression, you know, because it's the same thing, like where you just have no motivation.
Right.
And
enough to get out of bed in the morning and show up to work on time.
I go to the gym. I keep that going only because I'm so insecure that if I let myself get flabby, I'll hate myself.
Absolutely.
Right. So that's why I do that. My son's into fishing, so I actually just recently was like, I'm just gonna friggin' go with him, you know, and I'm actually enjoying it, you know. But I don't have my thing. Like he's passionate about fishing and sailing, and I'm like, I don't care, you know. I used to scuba dive a lot, but my neck and back hurt too much.
Right.
I still want to do it, but I feel so lazy, you know.
Yeah, I feel lazy, but then I'm also lazy, so I don't actually follow through on anything.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. But part of that is this functional freeze. Like it's you know, we weren't late if you asked us in combat times to go do something, we would have done it and quickly and well. But we're worn out, you know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you bring that up, because this is every time I have one of these conversations, everybody has the exact same thing.
Right.
Like, let me segue into this, and if you don't want to answer, just say, hey, I don't want to talk about that. But when you talk about there's depression and probably some anxiety in there, and you don't want to get it, and your wife is like, hey, you're checked out. Have you ever told her, hey, these are the feelings that I'm dealing with, or I'm depressed or whatever? And the specific question is, when you told her, if you told her that you were having these issues, these kind of, I don't want to say like mental health crisis, but these mental health
It
problems.
is that, yeah.
Has she, what was her reaction? And I suspect I know what it was, but was her reaction one of trying to guide you back to reality, or was it, TJ, I need you to suck it up and get back on board?
No, it wasn't that. I think there was two. The overt reaction was, I think, some shock, some what felt like disappointment, like other people aren't going through this, you must be weaker than them. So I felt a bit of that. Some of it was probably self-imposed. But, I think when a wife sees you and thinks that you're going to be the strong guy and then you're not, it's not a pleasant feeling for them. So it doesn't go well all the time. So I just kind of learned that for me, like, she was not someone that I was going to be comfortable getting real dark with. So I found others, but she has tried to steer me. Every time we go take the dog for a walk, she's like, hey, you should do, you got to do something. You need a hobby, you need to make friends. And she's an extrovert. I'm like, I don't need friends the way you do. And I'm trying to help her understand that. But, part of me wants to realize, like, that's coming from a good place. And I do need to do more, because that human contact's helpful for managing all that. But part of me is also like, it's okay that I just want to go home and chill and watch the race by myself. And I don't need people to yak with, So it's a tough combo. But I think overall, like, I'm very aware of that. It's hard for her to finish a career with me and then realize, like, I'm in physical pain all the time. I don't sleep well. I'm not in the kind of job that she thought I'd be in. So, like, I'm always worried that she's disappointed. And I mean, those fears are somewhat valid, but I don't know. I don't think she's aware. I think part of my problem is, I guess, what you could call trauma shaming. And that is that, like, military or PTSD and depression and symptoms, like mental health symptoms for military, is only for Navy SEALs that killed people with their teeth. It's not for, mine isn't, my sort of mental health symptoms aren't from a particularly traumatic combat event. They're from sustained, a period of absolutely intense stress from squadron command when we had a suicide where everything changed. We're a squadron of 150 people, and then going to the air boss. I mean, that's just 12 hours in the tower of getting yelled at and having near crashes and some crashes and things. And, like, you're in charge of it all. So that's the most stressful thing you can do in the world, I think, is probably be an air boss. And that's just and then going to pack fleet. So for me, it was like 8 years where it was just solid cortisol injections into my brain.
That's a real thing.
Yeah. So, but in her mind, it's like, why are you having any mental health problems? You weren't in the infantry. And so that there's that perception. And if you look at a lot of the mental health, like, charities and everything else, a lot of them are steered towards SOF, probably rightfully so. But there's a lot of, Cheryl has a friend who's a military police person, and she did her deployments to the border, but she saw tons of stuff,
Yeah, my wife is really good about. She works with PTSD and trauma people, and I would always kind of bust balls on people. I was like, that dude was a fobbit. He never left. Like, I'm out there, getting shot at, and we're shooting back, and she's like, you don't get to judge what other people's trauma. You have no idea what's going on in their head or in their closet that they're dealing with, and even in her and I relationship, later in life, I found out some things with her that was trauma with her. And when you're like, you see it, you go like, oh yeah, I feel really shitty for judging, but to kind of circle back to what I was trying to get at is, I don't think women are used to seeing in a normal heterosexual relationship is men are supposed to be the providers and leading the family and doing this is the natural order of things. And I'm not saying that same sex I'm not
right,
saying
you're not
that.
making a political statement
this
here.
is I'm just saying the natural order of
Sounded
things
pretty
is
political.
Yeah. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me. but
That's it.
Podcast complete.
Sorry.
But I think the natural order of things is the husband's supposed to be the strong, like women look for men to be the strong one.
It's biological, you know?
Yeah, there's some biological element because when I was going through depression, and sometimes I have bad days. Like some days I just have a bad day, and my wife
I've
has
been there
gotten
for some of those.
Yeah, and my wife she's gotten really good at going, okay, this is just a bad day, but there was a period that it was every day was a bad day for a sustained time,
Yep.
and she just kind of got to the point where she wants to be led, and I don't mean that from a place of she's a follower. She's used to having the husband lead,
show
and
initiative and make plans, and
because I was always that guy, and then when you're not that guy, it's just hard for women to come out of that and realize that there's got to be some level of empathy or like trauma shaming, like you were saying. And I think what's important is that you have these conversations with other people, because literally every person that I've interviewed, which is now 4, have all said exactly the same thing. They all have the same trauma, or not the same trauma, but some
Experience,
version of depression, some version of experience with their spouse saying, it's not that bad. Can't you just, because they want to get back to normal. And it's not a normal thing. If it was her and her girlfriend talking, that relationship would be totally different. But because it's a man and a woman, I think you're better served, whoever's out there listening, is you should have that conversation with your wife. But if you really want to get dark and get weight off your chest, you probably should have that conversation with somebody that's not your spouse. And that might be the worst advice ever.
No, it's great advice.
But I'm saying I think your relationship will be better served if you have that talk with a friend, a dude that, you know, after your podcast, Tyler's podcast, my childhood friend that we're good friends to this day, literally texted me and vomited up a bunch of stuff that I didn't know about from your podcast, because he was like, it hit me so hard. I felt like I needed to talk to you. And so I think it's important that if you find yourself, like for me yesterday, I did not want to come to work. I laid in bed and eventually meandered in here, but I finally did it. And, but I would say that is a normal thing, especially when because this experience, just your experience getting out of the Navy and trying to figure out, that is like some type of trauma in and of itself. I would say
it was rough. It makes you doubt who you are in every way.
Yeah,
you know? Like
because
that's not a happy experience.
And you have nothing backing it up. So every interview that you don't get a job is a swing and a miss, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're doing 4 interviews for the same job, like that's 4 swings and misses for one specific thing that you believe in your heart that you're good enough to do, but you're being shown otherwise. And not just in that interview, the other company that didn't hire you, the other company that didn't hire you, and you're like, I was qualified.
They're all
to do all this
ghosting you.
shit. Yeah.
And I was lucky. I mean, I got dark during that time. It was rough. And I just saw a guy on LinkedIn, Navy guy, who wrote basically like his near suicide story. And I was at a stage where, you know, there's stuff you don't tell certain people. Like if you have a clearance, you're not going to tell certain people. You're not going to talk to the VA about it because they're going to hospitalize you, kind of thing. So like, what are you going to do?
Right.
And in my case, I'm not comfortable talking to my spouse just because I'm just not. And it's like, I got nobody. And then, so I just messaged this guy and I was like, this is where I'm at. And he's been like a mentor of mine ever since. And I mean, he was a complete stranger, but so I've kind of started gravitating towards that kind of real content where veterans open up on LinkedIn or wherever about this, not the BS LinkedIn, like, oh, look how great I am. Come, you know, let me hire my services, but more of the people that are like, yeah, this. So I started just trying to be very real about like, people are like, hey, I'm retiring soon. Like, it's brutal. Be kind to yourself. It sucks. Talk to somebody. And there's not enough of that honesty. One of the things I'm doing, I don't want to let the cat too much out of the bag, but I reached out to one of the .orgs that helps veterans find jobs. And I said, you guys have all these things for interviewing and all that stuff and helping people find their purpose. Like they go deep, and really help you find out what you're good at and what you ought to be doing and what's going to be satisfying. But I said, there's nothing in here. I said, I know when you guys talk to veterans that some of them are telling you they're really in a dark place and you have nothing to, other than telling them, hey, go call 988 or whatever. You don't have, there's got to be a way to establish like that kind of mentorship. Like the guy that I found. And then I had 2 weeks ago, one of my buddies who knows I've been struggling reached out to me and he says, look, dude, I've grabbed a pistol several times. And I was like, all right. And he's like, I called you because I know you'd understand. And he said, if I didn't call you, I'd have nobody to call. So there's all these people suffering in silence. So that's why it's good that we're having this, right? Because you're ashamed to admit that you've been struggling, and no one knows it because you have to look awesome and strong, and you can't let it out too much professionally because people won't hire you.
Ruin your
right?
career.
So, I've not really made it anything like this public on LinkedIn, other than just like hinting at how tough the transition was, right? But I'm not going deep on where I was. But there's got to be a better way, I mean, we're doing it right now, right? But we just have to keep it up.
Well, I was going to say that's why I kind of started this, because there was a selfish element to this for me, is because this is the only way that I knew, because I'd went to a few therapists and it just sucked. Like they just couldn't really.
They told you to get hobbies, right? That's the only good thing I got out of mine.
Have a plan.
Yeah. You need hobbies.
Or they were like telling me like how to fix it. And I've only had one who was the Army psychiatrist we were in SOF, so we had a command sponsored psychologist that was in our organization. She was awesome. She got me on this mental health kick that I kind of let languish for a while. And then when I got out, I was like, I should probably keep seeing, a therapist to kind of keep this up. And everyone I met just couldn't get there. And so I thought, okay, you know what? I'm just going to do it myself, and I'm going to do it in real time so everybody can hear. And that's why I started this, because this is my version of therapy.
Right.
And
even if you wanted it. So I don't know if you have experience with this, but when I was seeing a clinician on active duty, and then checked out on terminal leave, and then moved out here, I didn't get to talk to another clinician for 7 months. That's how long it took for me to get in with somebody. So like that's a long time to be without coverage. And the only thing they had during that was it was called transitions or something, but it was useless.
Was that your experience with TRICARE and porting your medical coverage over, or were you talking about just in terms of getting on a provider's calendar, just getting how long it takes?
No, it's all of it. It's getting registered with VA Health and with TRICARE, and then getting the referrals and all that stuff. And then, their next available is in 3 months, but it took me 4 months to get to that point. So it's just you're hanging on your own. I was in a new city, didn't have a house and all that kind of stuff. So no friends. And what do? You just sit there and stew. And I mean, I guess I had the same experience that you did, that the therapists weren't good, but I didn't know at the time. I would have loved to have found that out sooner.
Well, it takes time too, right? Like 1, 2, 3 conversations, and you're like, okay, is this going anywhere? And then like 3-4 months down the road, you're like, no, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is you have to be cognizant of, is this person actually helping me, or am I just paying their bills?
Right.
Because they're just checking the block because they're, hey, just making another appointment, and they're just kind of stringing you along. And I felt like that's what was happening to me. It's just there was no,
Yeah, you have to trust yourself if it's not, you kind of think like, well, they're the therapist. But someone taught me like you need to speed date therapists until you find one. And the speed isn't there, but at least to have that mindset
Yeah.
of I'm gonna go until I click with somebody. So,
Right.
but I mean, I asked to switch about 3 months ago, and I haven't met the new one. So like it, you know, there's a gap in coverage.
Are
there.
you TRICARE Prime or?
I am, but I use the VA for this
okay.
part of it.
I got something you might be interested after this
Okay.
that might be good. So, so what else on the transition front did you think? Was there any failures or successes did you have, and how did that affect you? And what would you do different now?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely failure. So one of the lessons I learned was to keep multiple lines in the water, to be patient, and not, you know, they say don't grab the first offer, but at some point you need a paycheck.
Right.
So that's a tough one. I probably could have handled waiting a little longer and burned a little bit more savings to get a higher paycheck. And I don't know, you can't have too many regrets, but that's a tough one to ask somebody to do that, to pass up an offer for one that's not necessarily guaranteed. I don't know. I'm geographically limited. Like I chose to put my family down in some roots in a place they like, and you know, I know I'd have a way easier time if I was willing to go to Arizona or Washington D.C. But I got out of the military to live where I want and make my family happy. I'm tired of moving around to places I don't want to be. So I don't regret that, but that is a huge limit I've imposed on us. I chose a good place where it's affordable and there's a lot of jobs. I still struggled. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you can make all these right calls. I felt like it was a great move. I think in some sense I regret staying in as long as I did. I think that I was looking at it from the perspective of, you know, essentially $2,000 a month in retirement check to do the extra 5 years is a big jump. But if I had gotten out and worked for a big company, I would be smoking that, you know, times 3. So
Right.
I don't know if I was on the right assumptions there. You know, I think I've wasted some time.
But the other end of that is, if you didn't have that extra $2,000 a month, and you landed right where you are now,
Right.
you know what I mean? That's a whole different picture.
Yeah.
I have no retirement. I don't get shit. And so thinking about it now, I got out early and dumb, but again, I just had to get out. I was done. You know, I'd be retiring next year, and then I could have a paycheck.
Forever.
You know what I mean? Forever. Yeah. And so like, it's easy to scoff at what you should have done, but when it's clear to be, you know, $2,000 at this point in time right now, that's a big difference, especially during inflation, and especially if you again happen to end up where you are now.
Right. Yeah. Or if I'd gotten a job that pays $24,000 more, I'd just be breaking even.
Right.
So, and I think I try not to have regret, because I know the family enjoyed the tours we did. And,
Right.
and we got out at the time my kids were just before high school. So like for them, they got to live in Hawaii and Texas and, you know, in San Diego. Like all my great locations were late in my career, but now, you know, it made them strong, and it just worked out. So like family wise, it's good to go. So, and then the other thing I learned the hard way was that if you have, like I had the herniated disc and a really bad back, and if you try to switch that care to the VA is going to start you back at the beginning.
Yeah,
so,
it's a
right?
total
like you
fresh
must start with physical therapy. And I did. I started, it's like, look, this is ridiculous for that and a urology issue. And I gave up on both. And I said, I don't have 6 more months to mess around. I know what I need. I was already getting the treatment I needed when I was on active duty. I don't understand why you're making me rewind all the way back to start. It's just really, it's unnecessary. So there's got to be a way for the VA to credit the triaging that the active duty military did. So basically I went back to TRICARE for those issues. It's a real shame. But
I had the same experience. I need a hip replacement, and I went to the VA, and I thought I could just kind of port right in where I was at, and they made me go to the beginning, and I just went to TRICARE. I'm select, so I just paid the money and just went back to where I'm at. So yeah,
it shouldn't be like that. They should be able to look at your record and say, okay, clearly you've taken all the steps. You've done years of physical therapy. You've done pain management. You're ready for surgery or whatever, and not say like, no, none of that existed. You're going to.
My experience with the VA has been my doctor will give me whatever I want. She has never, when she does an exam, she's never like touched my glands. She sits behind her desk ask me a bunch of questions, and point blank will say, "What would you like?" Kind of like she's a drug dealer.
Yeah,
Right.
they don't know your record
Yeah.
either. They every time you go in, they're just like going through a checklist, and they just want you out of the office.
Yeah.
Really, it's a very numbers driven thing, and
My wife goes to the VA, but her doctor is not at all like that, which is really strange to me. And my dad goes to the VA. He has never experienced that, but I've seen 2 doctors in the VA, and both of them were checklist, check the block. What kind of drugs do you want? And they were, get out of here.
the specialists are good though.
I've been to 3 different VAs. I went to one out in Denver when I moved out there. I went to one in Vermont when I lived there, and now I went to one down here. The only one that had a doctor that was proactive was the one in Denver. And then every time after that, it's been a shit show. Like I walked into a VA, I don't know if I went over this last time, in Vermont, right around the time of sleeping in the truck. And I was like, man, I'm fucked up. I need help. So I was like, I don't want to be here. I made an appointment, and I was like, hey, I want to talk to a mental health specialist. And so I went in, and he sits me down, and he asked me probably about 5 minutes worth of questions. And he's like, he just kind of puts his clipboard down. He's like, so what do you want us to do about it? I was like, man, I need some fucking help. And he's like, you're fine.
Take some Motrin.
And that was it. That was like the conversation. And then he's like, you can go across the hallway and talk to somebody else. And the guy was like, you just need to have a plan. You'll be fine if you have a plan. I was like, no, I've got a pretty good fucking job. I work all the time. You know, I'm bringing in money. I'm doing it but I need like, no, you just got to have an action plan. Like, hey, what do you want to do with your life? And that was their
motherfucker,
solution.
if I knew that, I wouldn't be here.
And it's like, and it's far deeper than what do I want to do for work? It's like, I'm trying to not kill myself.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we're not going to help you.
I went to the VA here, and I walked in, and the guy that checks you in, you know, the checker-inner guy in the mental health clinic, he goes, what are you here for? And I said, to see a mental health professional. Well, what's going on? I don't really fucking want to have this conversation
like,
with
who are
you in the hallway with all these people behind me. He's like, well, what are your symptoms? Still don't want to talk to you about it. And he's like, well, if you can't tell me, then I can't get you in. And I was like, I mean, I told him straight up, fuck off. And I walked out. And, yeah.
I fucking hate the VA.
Yeah. I don't hate the...
Oh, I do.
I don't hate the player. I hate the game. But
I think there's a lot of players in that fucking game.
Oh yeah, they're there to collect
it.
They're there to collect a paycheck. It's definitely the C medical. But
It's bureaucratic.
It's bureaucratic. But there are some good. The one here, there's some mental health professionals over there that are pretty legit. But
and their physical therapist helped me out with my shoulder, and that was very legit.
Yeah.
The GI doc was good. But that's the kind of thing. It's hit or miss, and you have to.
You either have a good experience or you have a terrible experience.
And it's the for my back it was a nightmare, but for my GI it was good. So like you have to kind of bounce around and go. I'm going to discontinue with you guys on my urology. I'm going to go through this, and like you have to play this little maneuver game where you got to make strategic decisions on. Yeah. I'm going to use TRICARE for this, but I'm going to And now, so I have prescriptions through each, one, and
it's important too to note that your physical level of pain affects your mental state too.
Yeah.
So that's really important that if you can figure out it. I think you've got to bring those two into equilibrium, because your mental health can affect your physical health, and your physical health can affect your mental health.
Yep.
Again, my wife is smiling right now, listening to me say, because this is the thing she peppers me with all the time is your thoughts become your reality, that kind of stuff.
I don't know if you guys have sleep problems, but my chronic pain and other issues make sleep kind of bad. So then when you're always waking up super tired, and that just ruins everything. So to be exhausted and in pain all the time, like, makes you very cranky.
That was me for a long time. And then I did go see a civilian doctor, and I'd been to like every sleep apnea guy. And I have sleep apnea, but at the very, very bottom threshold where I don't use a CPAP or anything. And I went to a civilian doctor, and I said, I'm just tired. I wake up tired. I'm tired all day. I go to bed tired. And she said, have you ever got your testosterone checked? And I was like...
You're like, no.
No, like... And,
no, but I'm going to the gym.
Yeah. I can bench 225. And So
That's
she sent me to get my blood work done.
I'm all man, baby.
I can totally bench more than that.
Okay.
230.
Yeah. And she's like, hey, your testosterone is low. And so she put me on testosterone, and it's made, I'd probably say, a 40% improvement if I was to put a number to it. The sleep is better for sure. There's obvious other benefits to it. There's some side effects. Yeah. There's some side effects. You know, your hair will thin on testosterone, and you have increased chance for prostate cancer, which is when depending on
high risk for that, so that might not be good.
It might not be a good idea, but I would recommend maybe go get it checked, talk to your doctor. You can be on a low dose. There's you can take in, and you can do the injectable, like where you just a shot. They have this other one that seemed a little invasive to me. They basically take like this like big syringe needle, and they shoot it right in your ass and put these pellets in there.
Like center punch you or in the butt cheek?
I think in the butt cheek. I don't think they go in the brown star, but right in the meaty part. And they put
that's where he was going when he made a huge fist. Like, oh my God, no.
They go in your butt cheek, and they put these pellets in there, and then the pellets, it's like a 6-month supply, and the pellets, like, they dissolve.
What if my body gets eager and takes them all like that month?
Then you're just going to make some impressive gains in the gym.
Gains! And in the next 3 months, you're going to be miserable.
But I would say that testosterone really helped me. The other thing is, I don't know if you have this issue, but my ears ring 24/7, 365 all the time. And it's from being a mortar guy in the Army and then turbine engines all the time. I got this white noise machine. Have you ever seen those little white noise machines? That has been really, really good. And then there's actually another app you can, it's called New Calm. Have you ever heard of that?
I think so.
No.
It's called NU Calm, and you can sign up for free. It's like a 2-week free trial. And I did New Calm. My wife and I both did it, and we had the best sleep we've ever had.
This podcast sponsored by New Calm.
Yeah. I would, hey, call me, guys. Seriously, call me. But the problem with New Calm is I don't want to say the problem is it is a subscription, and it is a little bit pricey. We ended up not doing it just because of the price. But my wife, who does trauma, she teaches yoga to PTSD and trauma folks, had recommended that to a lot of her folks, and a lot of guys have said that it's like a what they call green noise, and it's worth just doing the 2-week trial and put that on. And the first night I slept so hard, like you know that hard that you sleep when you're like 6, and you wake up and you're at the other end of the bed and you don't even remember how you got there. You know, now I roll over and I'm awake and there's music playing in my head. I'm fully awake. But testosterone, white noise has really helped me. And I think for me, the biggest thing is I'm just in the gym. As much as I hate it, getting in the gym and being physical, I think there's probably a component to eating well too.
Eating, absolutely.
Definitely do that.
I am really shitty about that.
Me too.
I eat the Costco pizza all the time.
That sounds so good.
So what's your caffeine intake? Because I watch you pound down about 17 cups of coffee every day.
You see that?
Oh, now I'm about 3 cups plus. And I got it down to about 10 ounces a day, but with my neck hurting and taking ibuprofen, it makes me sleepy. And just the last few weeks, and I think just the way the work has been, I got back slowly up to more than I should.
Okay.
And I'm not quite sure if caffeine is. I try to Google it and stuff, but half the articles say it's great and half say it's bad. So I don't know. I'd like to be a little lower than where I'm at, but I definitely stop before 12 because it interferes with my sleep if I drink coffee late.
Do you watch video? Like at my house, this is what my wife and I do: is we get in the bed, she's on her side and I'm on my side, and then we just watch videos for about 2 hours.
We watch like a Netflix show together.
I'm talking like we watch like YouTube
short
TikToks. just stupid people doing stupid shit. And then that I have like, what do they call it? Night mode. If you have an iPhone,
Do not
disturb.
It still doesn't do shit.
No.
Like,
No.
Your brain, when you see that light, it makes you, people, all these sleep doctors will talk about, put the red lights on in your house and really low light, because we didn't evolve to have all this artificial light. And so when I think they're talking about don't eat after 7 p.m. is one of them.
I try to avoid that.
Your body's trying to digest your food while you're sleeping, and it keeps you up, and
Right.
you don't get good sleep. But I think you've got to figure out all those things feed into, as your body gets older and you're all broken from the military. You kind of got to baby this thing now.
Right.
There's no more just,
I'm not babying mine.
you baby it more than me. Yeah, you're out there, but I think that there's probably, I don't know that there's ever going to be a fix for all these things. And I've just thought, like, man, is this just what getting old feels like? Is this just, but then every now and again I see some old dude that's just in the gym, just killing it, and just is ripped up and
Running marathons or whatever.
And you're like, man, I couldn't even get out of bed today, and this cat's running a marathon. Like,
We definitely chewed ourselves up mentally and physically more than the average person.
yeah, I think a 40-year-old veteran is not the same as a 40-year-old guy that wasn't in.
Like a banker.
Yeah. Maybe a cop is a different story.
Yeah,
Like
first
a cop.
responders
Yeah,
have
first
their,
responders.
Very
First
similar.
responders deal with a lot of
They've
stuff.
gotten the shaft, right? Everyone's like,
Yeah.
support the troops. And about 10 years later, and first responders, like, we were like,
As an asterisk.
Yeah, we
yeah,
were
these
like,
guys are like, are you kidding?
"Oh."
The EMTs and the cops, I think they're finally getting the love.
Well, his brother was like a crime scene cleaner upper guy.
Yeah.
And he it was you or your brother made the point of, there's no support group. He's like, they cleaned up some brains off the wall, and then they went to Applebee's and
Yeah.
just drank themselves.
Because
Yeah.
he was, went on a call. I'll abbreviate it. And it was cleaning up. This dude offed himself with his hunting rifle in front of the apartment. And
In front of his 2-year-old kid,
yeah,
right?
and so my brother was cleaning brains and skull off the window while the kid's daughter was waving to him. And so he's trying to package all this shit up, right? And this is before he was a firefighter. And, we were like, hey, how'd you deal with that? Because there's no, like, I'm sure the company doesn't care. There's nobody who's out there championing people who clean that
Right.
shit up. Like, what's the association for restoration companies? Like, there isn't one. And so he's like, yeah, we just had all the stuff in bags and we went to Applebee's. And then we had to drop
with
the
the stuff in the back of their van
Yeah.
in the parking lot.
Yeah, they were just like, we need to go to Applebee's and drink.
Yeah.
And that's, that's their support wagon.
Yep.
Yeah, I think to kind of steer this back is, I think you have to figure out some type of support network and some type of, I think routine is really big for me.
I'm
Is
super in,
Me
like
too.
sticking
almost
to a routine.
OCD-ish about it.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm off routine is when I can like predict a landslide
Yep.
of
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah. Like, we're flying tomorrow night, and it's going to wreck me
Yep.
for the rest of the week because
Yep.
we're flying off schedule. And so that's going to be not too bad, but it's just one of those. It takes me two or 3 days to recover from that.
I think
So-
the biggest thing I found, at least that works for me, is through the stuff that we've been doing for the last year, me and Keith and John, is it's put us in different scenarios in contact with different people that I never like set out to do. Right, I never thought I was going to be a part of any of those.
This is the adventure racing with Flow State.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The adventure racing stuff, or the Catamaran Yomp, or whatever we've been connected with, or even the shooting competition we did. We got put in a team, and it was all veterans essentially. So it was like 15 dudes who got out of the military, and they're all kind of going through the same shit. And then we all figured out that, hey, we're all going through the same thing, and it made the day better
Yep.
because you've connected with people that you didn't know, and I still talk to those dudes just from that afternoon of shooting guns, right? But since we started that, we connected with Guardian Revival, and so we raised a bunch of money, and we were able to benefit those guys, and then in turn they helped us with the race stuff, right? And so you're building a community there, and it's like, oh, well, that was pretty neat. What else is out there? And then Meat Plow hooked us up with the Allied Forces Foundation, and that turned into a whole other thing where we ended up going to Scotland, and then we connected with not just dudes from the United States, but now we're rubbing elbows with guys from the Ukraine or Poland or Denmark or Australia, and you're catching. So now you're catching other veterans from around the world, and you realize when you're looking at, this dude from Ukraine who doesn't have arms or legs, you're like, okay,
there's some perspective there.
Yeah, but there's also no facade. There's no bullshit with those people, right? You don't have to come in here in your suit and tie and then sell yourself to somebody who doesn't get you, doesn't want to get you, doesn't care where you came from, doesn't give a shit about where you're going, right? And so you can kind of let your guard down around all these people. And every event that I've done, I've come away cleaner.
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, like this, this doesn't mean anything to me.
It's genuine connection that we seek out, right? And it's hard to find.
Well, especially for, self-proclaimed introverts. I don't like to go out. I don't like to go out of my way to go over to people's houses, right? And so these events have pulled me, around the world, I guess, at this point, to connect with people I never normally would have. And from there, I've made each one of those events we've done, there's probably 5 people we talk to. And then that network grows, and then you kind of see, okay, can we make a foundation out of this? How do we get out there next year? How do we grow this thing? How do we build the community internally? You're talking about we need to do more stuff, right? And for me, it helps me to go out and do these races and grind and like find that pit of pain and like get stuck in that thing and try to climb out, or have a friend next to me fall into that hole. And then you're like, okay, I need to carry this dude for the next 3 or 4 hours because he is miserable. Like, okay, I can connect with that, and that helps me come back here and sit at my desk and listen.
Stare into the oblivion.
Yeah. And wait.
Of. Do you think for you in this transition of getting out of the Navy, do you think, and it sounds like you've been kind of let down, and I think all of us have, because we talked about this, is you got to have some purpose. And when you don't have purpose, everything starts to feel like it's falling apart. Do you think that the Navy or the military fostered an environment where there's always a next thing to move to, which kind of it was like feeding you purpose along? And now that you're out, you're looking for that purpose in different jobs to fill that void? Or do you think if you could land the right job, everything would fall into place?
Well, I think there's an ingrained, like, habitual, we do a different job every couple of years, right? So like you get antsy. But I think I would be happy to find the right thing and just feel like I found it. This is it, I would love to do that. I don't have a burning desire to hop around. Like, I don't want to be a job hopper. I think it does hurt your resume to do that. I just want to find that home feeling, like my family's found it geographically, but I haven't found it professionally. Yeah. So, and if I don't find it, then at least I hope to, and I know that some people don't find it at work, but they just go to their job, they earn money, and then they invest in their time after, which I don't have any idea how to do that other than in the ways that I'm trying to learn to help other vets. And I told my mentor, the guy that's helped me out mentally, I said, I'm not quite qualified to be helping other veterans out right now. But he's like, well, that makes you qualified, Yeah. He's like, you don't get to a place where now you've crossed the line where now you can help. Like, you can help right now. Yeah,
I think that's with this podcast. Like, I definitely do not have it figured out, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I have good days, I have bad days. Some days I hate everything, and I think when you're living in that spot, that's the best time to have a conversation with somebody else that could be, because at a minimum, at least knowing that you're not the only one that's huge. It's a superpower. Yeah, it really is. That's how he termed it. He's like, it's a superpower. And in fact, when I helped my other buddy out, I told him, I was like, I don't know if I've talked him out of it or not, kind of thing. I don't know where this is going, but I said, look, I just need you to know that you now have the superpower, and you will get a phone call like this in a year or two. You will. It's guaranteed. Because the guy told me I would, and he was right. It's like, so I need you to, like, pay it forward. I need you to sort of start prepping for that. And I think that's a good frame of mind for him to think about. It's like, as he's suffering and everything, to realize, like, it's all building him up to be a better helper to somebody else someday. Yeah, I think to go back to what you said about, I don't want to say regret, but that's kind of what depression is. Your depression is kind of past events, and anxiety is forward events. And you had said, I could have done this, or I wish it would have been like this, or I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah.
I think it's important to know. Have you seen that show Dark Matter? Have you ever seen that? It's on Apple TV. It's a good show if you're into kind of sci-fi.
This
like that
podcast is
stuff.
also sponsored by Apple TV.
Yeah. If you haven't seen,
Brought to you by the makers of Dark Matter.
but if you that talks about the multiverse, and some people, if you believe in the multiverse, where every decision you make spawns a new universe, right?
Oh my God.
And so you just made
What have I done?
another universe. So there's multiple. And the point that I'm trying to make here is you don't have the ability to move in and out of universes. So all the decisions that you've made in your life were the only decisions you could make. I'm not talking about predestination. I'm
Right.
just talking about you're on the track that you're always that you're on.
Yeah.
There, you can't go back. And so when you kind of put things in those contexts, when I think of like that, for me, when I start to worry about I should have done this, or I wish I would have done, there's no point in it, because I can't slide over to another universe and live that life. And that's what that show Dark Matter, the guy moves between these parallel universes. But
Spoiler alert.
spoiler alert, it's a great show. But
The only thing I try to do with it is I try to use it to help
Yeah,
other
to
people,
learn
right?
from-
to let
yeah.
other people know, like cautionary tale, like I wish I'd thought of this kind of thing.
Yeah,
Because
and
I had a guy recently ask me like, hey, I'm trying to decide if I should stay past 20. And I remember you told me I definitely should do 24. And I was like, that was old me. And I've rethought it. And I just want to give you the other half of that before
Yeah.
you make your decision. And I was happy that I was able to give him that.
yeah, I think that's what it's about. So, but yeah. So what does it look like for TJ going forward? What are some things you're thinking about changing or doing, or what have you learned? What lessons learned have you taken from this experience and trying to apply it? And the answer might just be, I don't fucking know. I don't know, because I kind of live in that camp every day.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely don't know, but I think I've now come to a point 2 years into it where I'm like, it's fine. Like I've just learned to be easier on myself. Like I'm not going to beat myself up. I'm putting up walls to people, that like my mom, for example, just doesn't respect boundaries, so, or here at work, you've known that if I felt a boundary was crossed, I went and spoke up. So like, I've been a people pleaser and a go-getter and, whatever, and to be everything for everybody. And the weight of it's been too much. And I've just basically threw that backpack off and said, you know what, one day at a time, I'm just going to be who I'm going to be. And just try to figure things out as I go and just try to help other people out. So I've just kind of, just let a big breath out and just like, all right, what do we do here? And I've realized that I really do value things like what we're doing right now. So I'm going to invest in that. My kids are approaching high school, so they're the priority. My wife and I are committed to doing everything we can, no matter if we struggle, if we end up separated or something. We've had our dark moments, but I think we're doing fine. But we agreed, like, no matter what, if we struggle as a couple, we're going to make sure that none of that affects our children. And so, like, that's enough, And I guess I'm just learning to be a little bit patient with life and with myself, and realize, like, it's, in a way, kind of life sucks, like it's painful. It's politically, like I get really upset about how divided people are and everything and all that kind of. I try not to pay attention to the news too much and just try to do the best I can with what I got. As I don't know, it's a little bit defeatist. It's a little bit, nihilist or what Nietzsche nihilist or whatever. But I'm just try to enjoy moments as I can and be patient with myself, because there's a lot of fucked up things in my head as far as being able to enjoy moments and being able to be present and have fun and laugh and make friends and all the things that should be easy. They're not, but it's like, I just learned to say, it's okay. Yeah, I think
that's a perfect analogy to, I don't want to say it's the new normal, but you just have to be okay with being okay. And I don't mean that to be like a nihilist point of view. It's more of, the world paints this picture of happiness and everything, but that's not reality.
Yeah.
You can't get to happy without bad times. They have to.
They're equal.
They
have to be equal.
Yeah,
Yep.
or it doesn't work. And I think with social media and all this stuff, you get a really skewed version of reality, which makes you feel shittier. And I think that's a good way to kind of look at it. And another thing that I think is really hard, and I almost wish there was like a course or something. It is extremely difficult as an adult to make friends.
Oh, yeah.
To make friends. And a lot of it's I'm like you. I'm just closed off. I want to stick to my routine. I make a Costco run. I go do this. A putter. And probably the truth of the matter is you need to have that connection.
That's what I'm noticing with all these events that we've been doing. Is like I'm put in these situations with other people to spend a week with somebody I don't know, right? And we were living in barracks, right? So it was like, oh, this is kind of familiar to me. Living in barracks, I can get to know somebody living in the barracks. But it's those forced human interactions. And when I come home, which I noticed that for myself, is like when I'm out, I like to be out. I don't watch the TV. I don't look at my phone. Like I'm with the people. We're doing whatever it is that we're doing, and I'm totally engrossed in the moment. But as soon as I come home and I walk through the threshold of my house, I like check out.
Yeah.
And then I'm like remove myself from the world, and then I'm sucked into that phone or anything else that's a distraction.
But you don't seem to just going to a party and just talking to people, right?
No.
You're interacting with people because there's a mission or a purpose.
Right.
And I realized that about me too. Like I don't want to just go chat somebody up and make a friend. But if we do an activity that I'm interested in, like when I went to this F1 watch party, like these are people that I can talk to.
Right.
And we had conversations
you
about
have
what I love.
in common with them.
Yeah. And so I'm going to try to find those things, but I'm also not going to put pressure on myself to find them. It's a balance, right? Because my instinct is to turtle up. In the more I'm struggling, the more I'm gonna do that functional freeze and just be like checked out, and at my own detriment.
Yep.
And I'm self-aware enough to realize it, but not strong enough to overcome it usually. Sure. So I think I've learned only recently, like what we just talked about, right? That if I find something to do where there's people, that's different than just talking to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's why, it for us at our work, we complain so much because there's something about communal complaining that it's not really about solving the problem. It's just knowing that everybody else kind of feels somewhere.
Yeah. That's why I come to your office all the time. I have nothing to do there.
Yeah.
I'm not there for usually any professional reason other than to close the door and bitch about a certain toxic individual.
To bring it back to the happiness real quick, I had a thought the other day, and I was thinking about what is happiness? We talk about this thing that we're trying to achieve, right? With this happiness at work, happiness at home, happiness just in general. I came to the conclusion that happiness is just a small moment in time, right? So it's not something you're going to be bathed in and you're going to live in the great light of happiness. It's something that you have to do the hard work and the bullshit. You got to put up with all the stuff for when that moment comes by. And you do the hard work on yourself, not just carrying your dirty laundry around, but do the hard work to prepare yourself and clean your own house and make sure that when that moment comes by, you can be there for it. Because when you're locked up inside your house or in your head or whatever, you're not going to notice those moments when they come to you. So if you can figure out a way to do that internal work to deal with your stuff, and at least in a healthy enough way, whether it's eating right, therapy, or whatever the case may be, when that little happiness ball comes bouncing by, you can kind of catch it and be in the moment, whether it's with your kids, because you're talking about being distracted or checked out at dinner, right? You're missing those small things that are fucking going away fast.
Yeah.
And so being able to do that small bit of work in yourself and just be patient and wait. Not everything's going to be awesome. Not everything's going to be filled with happiness and joy. And if you start saying if we can just go do that event, I'm going to have so much fun and I'm going to be happy if we get to do that event, right? Now you've put this big expectation on something that might not turn out to be what you want it to be. Now it's a disappointment. But in that, you've probably missed a gem because you were so disappointed in the expectations of what that was.
Yep.
That's pretty pithy. That's pretty good.
That's 100%. Yeah, those moments are small. I've learned to, instead of chasing extreme joys,
Right.
that roller coaster joy is small tiny moments. Like, I was walking the dog and saw a hawk on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
It's like, that is cool, and I videotaped it. Like, that was awesome, you know? So I'm finding a lot of those in nature myself, away from people, whether it's in the fishing or whatever. But so I figured out a way to seek out a little bit of that serenity and happiness in nature. And that's probably why I just started accompanying my son when he's fishing, because he can see ospreys hovering, and it's like, that's really cool. And it's just a small thing, but trying to find those little joys. Or my favorite driver had his first win, so like I was all frustrated, but like when I'd be all pissed off and everything that this season's going downhill, but something like that, right? Something that you're a fan of, like a sports team, whatever, that when they do well, it's that's awesome. So I'm just trying to find those little moments to savor, even if they're little, and recognize them and enjoy them, and not chase any huge highs, and accept the fact that most of life is like a ho-hum in the middle,
right,
or a little below that, and then there's a lot of lows, but it's like I think that like grief and joy, like it's like two ends, and like if you want to feel extreme joy, you have to feel extreme grief.
Absolutely,
and
they're connected. And
if you only feel a little joy, then they're proportional. Because the best day of my life was the day I got back from a 9-month deployment. My kids were 2 and 3 when I left. It was my first big deployment with little kids, and I was filled with guilt and everything about missing my boys, but all that, and they were fine. Like, they're little kids. My wife struggled. It's hard for her, 2 and 3. But I got home as the happiest single day of my life. I still, I can point, and there's a photo of like the happiest moment of my life, seeing my kids again after that. And, but those moments I had on the ship, being like, what am I doing? Feeling guilty. Like, why did I choose to leave my kids for command? Am I serving myself? And all this kind of stuff, those two feelings are proportional. People who have not been pulled from their kids for that long will never know that grief, but they'll never know the joy that I felt. And I try to remember that all the time.
Is that the picture that's on your on your wall in your office?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool picture. Just to paint a picture for the visual folks, that's the one where you're on the flight line with your G suit on and your full thing.
Haven't gotten out of my flight gear yet, and my kids were, obviously there. My wife hired a professional photographer, and then after the hugs and everything, I went back. We have a equipment platform in the back of the Prowler. You could stuff bags in there, so I went back to get my bag, and my sons followed me, and then we were just all holding hands walking back, and she got a picture of it. And it was awesome. I still can feel that,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I think this is probably like a natural place to. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or that we didn't get to? Or
no, I think we covered it all. And it feels good to talk about. I'm surprised. I thought I was going to go off on all this stuff, and that I didn't realize you guys had, have felt the same way in so many ways. I guess that's the shock to me. And now you guys know, but I didn't. I thought this was pretty rare, and now I realize it's super common. Like, that's something I just learned today.
And these are things you'll never know if you never talk to anybody.
Yeah,
right? For anybody out there who's not going to talk to anybody, like, everyone's going. I hate to say everyone's going through the same shit, but there's a large sea of people going through the same shit you're going through.
Yep.
Yeah, if you listen to episode 5 and 6 that are before this one, if you go back, there are so many parallels to. I guarantee you there is a very large proportion of, I'm not even going to say military folks, I'm saying everybody,
right,
probably at some, I think the military population has a larger probably piece of this, but because of all the, what was it called?
Global war on terror.
Not that. The free.
Oh, the functional freeze.
Functional freeze.
Yeah.
That is probably, and a lot of people out there might be listening to this and think we're interviewing TJ, who is a former 06 and sidebars. You are the most non-06 I've ever met.
Facts.
So
respect. I appreciate that.
No, thank you.
It means a lot.
Thank you.
But a lot of, there might be, privates or E3s out there that are listening to this that think that the things that they're going through doesn't relate to the level that you operated at. And I think that's probably categorically false. You're not put on this world to compare the things I've done with the things you've done with the things you've done. It's about your personal experience, and if it's real enough to you, it affects you how it affects you. So you have got to figure out a way to either have that conversation. And if you have that conversation and somebody judges you, you probably need to get new friends.
Right.
So I think it's pretty awesome. And if you kind of think about the example, somebody from your squadron or somebody from Naval Air Station Corpus Christi is going to hear this, and they're going to go, I remember that dude when he was the skipper, and he's dealing with this, and they are probably dealing with this. That in and of itself, I think, is a superpower.
Yeah.
So
I was a mess then too, struggling with a lot of stuff as a CO of the base, but you have to keep it together.
Yeah.
And I would talk more candidly when I knew a junior person was going through trouble. I had a couple of those, and I took one guy in tears down to mental health. I was like, come meet my doctor, and I just took him down there. That's not a conversation you can have as easily if you haven't felt what they're feeling.
Right.
So that was, that helped. But, and I'm always nervous disclosing this kind of stuff, but I've just kind of learned to let go because, it's like we've got to break the culture of shame that goes with struggling. And, I'm probably not ready to go super public and start posting LinkedIn posts and just tell, I wish I had the courage to do that. Like my other friend does. I told him, I was like, I admire what you're doing, but let's see where this goes, let's see if I get fired. But I mean, I stand behind it though, you got to be real with this stuff. So I'm proud of it.
Yeah. I 100% agree with you. And I think you're spot on. Tyler, you got any closing remarks?
I never have anything good to go out on.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Just say your remarks complete.
Oh, remarks complete. Just to piggyback off what the commander just said.
Yeah, 100%. Does that happen in the Navy?
What, piggyback?
Yeah, like...
Yeah, you guys give each other piggybacks?
Like...
Oh, yeah, you get that a lot. Listen, we could go a whole new episode about stupid stuff people do in meetings. Like, do you have anything? No, I don't have anything, but just wanted to say, we've seen that one. And I want to reiterate what he said. It's like...
I just want to piggyback off what the first sergeant was saying.
Yeah, in the Army, the first sergeant and the commander, they both do it to each other, but they say the exact same thing. And we're like, dude, we could have been walking out of here 10 minutes ago.
I was never the platoon sergeant in any of the meetings like, hey, you got anything? Like, if I don't have anything, I'm not going to say something. I'm not the dude who's just going to stand up there to let you know I'm a dude standing up here.
Yeah.
I'm against recurring meetings.
Yeah, I am
personally.
too. You've heard my...
If it's regularly scheduled, it's wrong. That's my take on it.
And just to piggyback off what you said, I'm against those kind of meetings too.
Yeah. And I'd like to echo...
I see what you did there.
Your comments.
Yeah.
That's a good dovetail into...
You should do an episode about like just...
Let's do it.
Bullshit.
Let's do one. Let's do it. Let's do a
meetings.
Well, just
how stupid meetings are.
All kinds of stuff. Meetings, emails, all basically like work-related bullshit.
Yeah.
That
Corporate
should stop.
America.
Yeah. Like 95% of the shit we do in meetings could be a drive-by conversation.
Should be.
Or
already talked about.
At best, and maybe an email.
Should be's don't make honey, though.
Yeah. That's good.
That's what I'm going out on.
There's a lot of rage ready to go on this.
Yeah,
so.
I could write a book on that one.
This will be an animated episode.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming
guys.
on and talking with us. Thanks for helping me out, Tyler.
Thanks for having me.
We'll do it again another time.
All right.